invincible.
Welcome to Players Circle Sports, where players come to play. I'm here with my co-hosts Lahan and Mark. So first, we're gonna discuss the Chris Paul trade to Houston from the LA Clippers. Basically, they traded him for Patrick Beverly, the first round draft pick in 2018, which won't be that great because the Clippers they're gonna make the playoffs probably, and Lou Williams and about 5 other players, whatever.
Decker, Hilliard, Harrell.
Yeah. So I have 3 questions. Number 1, is that a good deal on the part of Chris Paul? Number 2, is that a good deal on the part of the Clippers? And number 3, is that a good deal on the part of Houston? So first, is it a good deal on the part of Chris Paul? Did he make the right decision?
From Chris Paul's standpoint, I think he made a good decision.
Yeah.
For sure, because I mean the Clippers they're sinking faster than the Titanic. They're done, and I mean his relationship with Doc Rivers is already sort of on, it's in deep water as it stands. So I think from his standpoint, it was a good decision. I mean, playing with Harden, he's playing with another superstar. So yeah. From that standpoint, yeah.
What do you think?
I think it's a good deal for Chris Paul. Like he should have went to the Spurs, but I guess after the Spurs, Houston's not bad of a deal. Obviously, you need to build a big 3 there in order to compete with the Spurs and the Warriors. I think it's a good deal on Paul's part. And then after Griffin signed $173 million right after he got traded, it shows the Clippers are not interested. I wouldn't say not interested in him, but they just want to retain someone, right? So it's a good deal for him. Good deal.
I think it's a good deal because Chris Paul, as the president of the Players Association, he knows all the loopholes, right? So he knows that if he just went away and signed a brand new contract, he would leave a lot more money on the table than what he did by opting in for this final year with Houston.
Yeah.
And number 2, the reason why I think it's a good deal is because Clippers, they're not going anywhere, obviously. And also Houston, at least they'll be competing. Maybe not for a championship, but they'll be a competitor in the playoffs and whatever. But the biggest reason is because everybody's just biding their time right now and waiting to see what LeBron does next year. So basically, he's just doing 1 year, not losing that much money, and then next year he's gonna go join LeBron. That's what I'm saying.
Chris Paul?
Chris Paul will go join LeBron. And
I agree with that, but on a different team.
In our future segment, I'll tell you exactly where they're gonna go with LeBron. Because the reason why I say he's gonna join LeBron is because you don't think he called Chris Paul and was like, "Yo, Chris Paul,
LeBron's
what are we gonna do?"
Man.
He is pulling the strings. He's always pulling the strings.
So they obviously talked in the offseason, right? So if Chris Paul didn't go to the Cavs this year, it's because clearly LeBron's gonna leave the Cavs and go with Chris Paul somewhere.
LeBron's on his way to being the first player/commissioner in the NBA.
Yeah,
all right.
pretty much.
Yeah.
So number 2, is that a good deal on the part of the Clippers?
I think so. They're rebuilding future-wise. They got a lot of 8 players is a lot. Maybe not these guys like Liggins and Hilliard, let's say, because they were cut by their teams last year. But they have a decent amount of players they could develop into role model players. Decker's a good shooter. Harrell's really good in the post. I think Beverly and Lou Williams though, that's huge pickups right there. That pretty much fulfills their starting guard spot with Beverly, and then off the bench will come Lou Williams, I think. So because they lost Redick, right? He might even start. So I think it's a good deal for Clippers, and they get next year's first round pick. So
what do you think?
I think on the surface, I think it was a horrible move for them.
Yeah.
I think it was absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
But
they got so much
they
back,
had no choice, right? I mean, Chris Paul pretty much pointed out to them, right? I don't want to be here to a certain extent.
Yeah.
I don't want to be here. The whole Austin Rivers, and Melo, that whole dynamic where Melo was supposed to come to the Clippers, but because Austin Rivers was in the deal, Doc said no to the deal. I think that put a lot No, it's true though.
I know,
It
I
was
know,
out
I know,
there.
I know, but why
And,
would
like,
he?
Yeah.
I know, but he did. And then, so right there, that told Chris Paul, well, I don't want to be here then.
Yeah.
Because, like, you're not trying to win. You're just trying to, you're basically just trying to just coast and
think
just
it's
be
good
that
to
same
coast.
team over and over again. So, I think, but they had no choice. So, in that sense, it was an okay
But you
game.
also have to remember, like, when you're trading for a blockbuster player like Chris Paul,
Yeah.
the other team's always going to get the sour end of the deal. Look at the Jimmy Butler trade, for example. Like, whenever
No.
you trade for a big star,
I get it.
you're always going to give too much.
I
You're
get
always gonna
it, but that's why I'm saying it was a horrible deal. But I know they had no choice; they had to do it. So from that standpoint, they got all they could out of the deal. I think so. They actually have a bench; they have more movable parts and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think from that standpoint, they did what they could.
I think the Clippers robbed Houston, okay? Because Clippers had no bargaining power. Zero, okay? They had zero leverage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Chris
they
Paul
definitely
Chris Paul was gonna walk. And then they managed to get all that in return.
Yeah.
Houston,
The fact that they got Beverly and Lou Williams alone is
Houston,
crazy.
Houston.
He's worth that much. That's it. He's worth those two. I think.
Yeah.
No, if I was Houston, I would say straight up trade Beverly for Chris Paul. That's it. I'm not giving you anything else. Because
But they would have said no. Like that would have
okay,
no.
and then July 1st, Chris Paul walks.
Chris Paul's like Jason Kidd. He makes any team he goes to better.
I know, but
no matter what.
they were in a rush.
Beverly not as much.
They were in
no,
a
I
rush.
get the
though.
rush.
And on top of that, Chris Paul clearly, like, I don't think unless they managed to get like Paul George or LeBron or whatever, Chris Paul would have won.
And quick side question, Lou Williams was probably just traded because obviously Eric Gordon won Sixth Man of the Year. Had Lou Williams won Sixth Man of the Year, I think they would have traded Eric Gordon instead.
And Lou Williams is gonna start too, because as a combo, as a combo, Beverly he brings you the defense, and Lou Williams brings you the offensive power.
starting-
I think
Combo
having
is awesome.
Lou Williams, Jamal Crawford is pretty beastly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I think that's pretty beastly right
And-
now.
that clip, LA clip.
And
to the
so
clip.
finally, was that a good deal on the part of Houston?
Oh, I want to go.
Absolutely. I think so. There's all these haters saying that, Chris Paul and James Harden, they like to hold the ball too much. They won't play well together. They're probably the two league leaders in passing and like assists, And like, yeah, maybe initially in their careers they went to pass the ball as much, but like they've grown, they become veterans. They're gonna share the ball. I think that team's gonna be better. And everyone still thinks that, but Harden needs to be point guard. No, Harden does not need to be point guard. In fact, he wrote an article where he spoke with Mike D'Antoni, and D'Antoni told him, you need to be the point guard. You need to be that guy. Now, fast forward till now, Chris Paul is the freaking point guard now, right? And Harden goes back into his role at being the number 2, coming off screens, taking shots. He'll do the odd ISO drive to the basket. I think Houston just needs one more piece to catch up or even come close to the Warriors or Spurs.
What do you say?
I think it was an absolutely horrible deal.
No way, man.
Yes, it was horrible
No
because
way.
of the fact.
CP3.
The reason why it was horrible, it's not that it's Chris Paul's fault, but here's the thing. Houston brings in Chris Paul, okay?
Yeah.
First of all, if it was me, if I want to start like a big 3 or whatever, because I think they just wanted to make a splash. So they were like, Chris Paul, there's our splash, right?
It's Houston. They always make a splash.
Okay, but here's the thing, like, you need a front court. One, they don't have a front court at all to work with those 2 guards, okay?
Yeah.
Like, you can't have a super team starting with 2 guards. I just don't think it works. I think you need maybe 1 guard, and then you need a front court.
Golden State.
Okay, that's homegrown. That's homegrown. That's different.
Okay.
They traded for this one, right?
Okay,
That was
Still works
homegrown.
out, though.
Yeah, but still. And on top of that, what does that say to Harden? Now he had his one shot at point guard, and then now they're like, well, we're bringing in Chris Paul. You're not good enough.
But he was a
That's
turnover-
almost what it's saying.
Yeah,
I think it's gonna start. It's gonna start.
I want to jump in after.
I think it's gonna
you
kind
have
of
to.
start. I think it's gonna start sort of like a controversy between those 2. I don't think they're gonna be able to share.
Okay.
I don't think
Let me
they're
jump
gonna be able
into
to share.
this. Let me
He
jump
knows
into
it.
this.
And they gave up
Take
way
it.
too much.
Let me jump into this. I think it was a good deal one way and a bad deal the other way. Okay, so good deal because Harden, he was a turnover machine. Okay, that's
Turnover king.
exactly. So by having Chris Paul, who's known for not turning over the ball, it's better to have him as a point guard. And on top of that, in the playoffs, it was shown that once you can make a plan to counter Harden, he becomes useless pretty much. Well, not useless, but ineffective. So now you have Chris Paul. Now you have to double team one guy, so it opens up the other guy. And people were like, oh, they need the ball in their hands. Okay, Chris Paul. What was the biggest criticism at the beginning of his career? Oh, he didn't shoot enough. He needs to be more assertive offensively. He was, and what is the biggest compliment we give to Chris Paul? He's the definition of an old school point guard. Pass first. And it's because Clippers were like, no, we need your scoring. So he had to start scoring and keeping the ball. But it's not his in
That's not even where I was going with this, but okay.
On top of that, okay, but not just that. But then, what was I going to say? So, the reason why I say it's a bad deal, though, is because Houston already has enough shooters. They need somebody to be able to penetrate and then dish the ball. Because Harden doing it up by himself, that's not enough. Clearly, it's been shown in the playoffs. So they should have gone after Paul George. That's what should have happened. You put Paul George in Houston instead of Chris Paul? Oh,
can I just say,
nice. They
tried. The thing is, and this is the thing, and this is why another reason now, in theory, this is another reason why I think the deal was horrible.
You give all that for Paul George, and Pacers would have said no?
No, they wouldn't. Okay, just wait.
Okay,
just wait. So, since they already gave that up to Chris Paul, first of all, it's irrelevant for the Paul George. Because, they wanted Chris Paul, I think, even before they wanted Paul George. They wanted Chris Paul first, and then what they thought was going to happen was, we're going to bring in Paul George. Now they got screwed over.
We're going to bring Paul George. You have nothing else to trade.
That's what I just said. But they probably didn't think at first that it was going to take that to get him. And then once it happened, they're like, uh-oh. Because the thing is, I think they wanted to bring Paul George, then they had their big three. Now they don't have it. That's what makes this trade even worse. Because Chris Paul, they have Chris Paul for 1 year now, and he's jetting after that.
You think so?
Yes.
That's the thing.
100% he's jetting.
That's the thing.
Chris Paul said the reason why he joined Harden was because at the awards show, June 26th, just passed, when Westbrook won the MVP, he saw the anger and salty look in Harden's eyes, and he's like, that was one of the main reasons why.
Yeah, he's paid to say that.
The reason.
No, he's not paid to say
he's
that.
He's paid to say that, man. You're not going to say, well, I'm jetting.
He's not a spokesperson.
You know why I think Houston hesitated on Paul George, though? Because if Paul George said, wherever I go, if I go to Houston, I'm signing an extension or whatever, they would have probably given that deal to Paul George instead of Chris Paul. But the fact that Paul George said, 100% I'm going to Lakers unless I go to the Cavs first, right? So Houston, they're like, dude, we're not going to give all that just for 1 year. Whereas with Chris Paul, you have a little bit of hope. The door is still kind of cracked open.
Yeah, but I think they wanted Chris Paul anyway. I still think they wanted him from the beginning.
Yeah.
And they just anticipated they were going to put all three of those guys together. Then OKC said, screw you guys. We're coming in. We're taking Paul George.
Anyway, so I think they gave too much because now they can't trade for anybody else because they have nothing else to give.
Yeah, they have nothing.
But anyway, so this is it for our segment. Let us know in the comment section if you think
good deal.
It was a good deal on all three sides or whatever.
Deal.
Subscribe, like our video. Peace. All right.
Here we go.